Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. I've got a returning guest here, as well as she brought a special guest, so it's just a party today. Would you guys like to introduce yourself to the masses?
Woohoo! Yay! I am
Party!
Erin Fitzgerald.
And I'm America Young.
And
And
it's
together we are Fitz Young. I don't know. It just sounded like we should have done that.
that sounds like a Wii Fit video game.
Yeah.
It's
it does.
perfect, just for Americans.
Well, we are doing exercises as we're doing this interview, so
Yeah,
that's
we're both
perfect.
voice actresses. We work a lot together in video games and some cartoon series.
Well, it's nice to have both of you on together, and it's nice to talk to you both a second time, which is ironic. It's both of your second interview.
Oh yeah,
Woo!
perfect.
Yes. Now, for all the listeners out there, and I know they know about it because I link it in the live chat all the time when a new episode is out. Both of you are in a little show called Monster High. And Erin brought this show to my attention in the first interview, and I have never stopped watching since.
That is so cool.
That is so cool.
It's just such a fun show. Like I remember getting into it and then just watching everything that was on the official YouTube from the beginning all the way to like then, which was like 6 months ago. So so I like steamrolled through it.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Fantastic, actually.
Fantastic. Clawsome.
Clawsome.
But one of my most interesting experiences watching the show and being familiar with the merchandise is I went to the Consumer Electronics Show earlier this year, and you know they have booths there for video games and cell phones and whatnot, but they also have like toy booths. And one of the funny ones I found was a mixture between Hello Kitty and Monster High, and it's this pink booth, right, with like two tables, and all the people sitting there were like old Asian businessmen.
Wow.
It was just hilarious.
That is, I want a picture of
I
that.
was just thinking a picture that would be hilarious.
I'm pretty sure I have a picture of that on our archive.
Post it, please.
Okay.
So
cool.
I'll have to share that
Yeah.
with you.
Please.
But that was probably one of the funniest moments I noticed with my Monster High experience is that old businessmen apparently realized the show is popular.
Yeah, well, and it's fascinating how that happens. Like once you know something's really popular when everybody starts imitating it.
Yeah.
And now you've got sort of a branch off series, the Ever After High series.
Yeah, it's the spin-off. Yeah, it right now it's just webisodes on everafterhigh.com. But yeah, it's very exciting. We'll see how it grows. If it grows, we'll see if the fans like it. You never know.
And there's the one crossover character.
Yes, Cupid no longer goes to Monster High. She now goes to Ever After High, and I am also the voice of Cupid.
That show, to me, I think I prefer that show a little bit more just due to style. Like, I love the fashion in that show.
Oh, very nice, very nice. We're very curious to see how it differs. I think it's a different audience than the Monster High audience. I think like I feel like the Ever After High audience is kind of like the Disney audience, and the Monster High audience is kind of like those who adore Lady Gaga. In a more, that's the only way I can break it down. But and obviously, it's probably not that. Nothing's ever black and white like that. It's always shades of gray. So we'll see. I'm excited to see if it does well. I hope it does, of course, because I play Raven. So fingers
And
crossed.
One of the things that I've always admired about actually both series is actually the fashion, like the amount of thought and creativity that goes into the outfits. I mean, in Monster High, it's like all the things that pertain to that monster. And in
Yeah.
Ever After High, it's like the coolest, most modern rework of what that stereotypical costume should have been.
Yeah, it's
You
kind
know?
of genius when you think
Yeah.
about it, considering they have the challenge where those characters are even more famous, or at least the parents of those characters are so
Right.
much more famous, to be like, how do you rework something that's been done a million times? And I think they're doing a good job.
Yeah, no, it's really cool what they done.
We'll see what the fans think.
I think fashion is really important, and I can say that I'm a 90s kid, and I'm rewatching Gem right now, which was technically before my time.
Truly outrageous.
Truly. And I just like I notice every episode how their fashion changes. And
Yeah.
I think that, you know, is a good indication that kids notice that too, because I'm getting my brother's 10-year-old into Monster High, which you already watched, but I was like, there's this new one called Ever After High. Have you seen it? And she's like, no. So I'm getting her into that right now too. And she's
Excellent
like,
work, Jackie. We'll send you the check.
yes. But it's kind of interesting to see her reaction because she's like, why do they take so long to come out? It's not fair.
No, I know. I know. We feel the same way.
I'm really curious to see how that one explores itself though, because it seems like Monster High in the beginning had like really longer episodes, and Ever After High has some long episodes, and now they're doing the short ones. But I hope they get into some really neat character development.
We can't say anything on that, but I
I
hope
know.
so too.
I know.
It seemed to me like from the beginning, Monster High was less characters at first, so they were able to maybe spend a little bit more time on the story of like Frankie coming to this new school. And I think with Ever After High, they have so many incredible characters that the wealth of characters that they can build off of. And I think it seems like they're going to be trying to introduce as many as possible.
Yeah, it's kind of different that way. Where they really were with Monster High. It was really about the four girls, and they focused on the four girls. And Ever After High, every episode is introducing new characters, which is kind of awesome. So
yeah. Because they're building the world, you know, and how diverse it is. Which is cool.
I like that they're approaching it, and it feels like they're approaching it a little bit differently, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then we're not talking about anything else because we don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
We love Mattel and we love our jobs. Thank you, Mattel.
Well, we're not going to get you in trouble, but, you know, talking about stalking you on Twitter and finding out about, you know, whether you're on, you know, you're watching Monster High or the latest episode is out. Lately, you've been playing a certain video game that I think everyone and their mom has also been playing.
I am so addicted to Dragon's Crown. You have no idea. And the thing was, I got to work on the game, and I got to I played the sorceress on the game, and I was in a room standing next to Yuri Lowenthal, who played the wizard, and then there was the girl who plays the elf was also in the room, and we were all recording at the same time because we were recording the narration part. So we would listen to JB Blanc's narration first, then Yuri would record, then I would record, and then the elf would record. And as we were recording throughout the day, I could hear in the content the genius references from my childhood, from medieval movies from the 80s, from all the medieval books I used to read, from Monty Python, like every single medieval awesome thing that I was in love with as a child is in this game. And I was losing my stuff, just losing it. Me and Yuri were like, oh my God, they made that reference. That's genius. And that's just from the dialogue. Playing the game, it's the visual payoff too, where Roland the Barbarian looks exactly like Conan the Barbarian, and I'm just, like the original Conan, you know, which was awesome. I loved that movie with Grace Jones, and it's just so badass. Can I say that? I just did.
You totally can. You're okay.
Really love that game. I'm in love with it. In love.
I love that you can also touch the barbarian's chest.
See, apparently I haven't gotten to that part of the game where apparently there's a grope section, which is kind of gross and disgusting in my opinion, but I haven't found it. So until I try it for myself, I have no opinion on the groping area.
Fair enough. I mean, for me, I think it's entertaining because you can do it with almost any character. So
that's hilarious.
To hear like
being a little kid and going to the museum and seeing the museum statues that were naked and secretly touching them, and like I can't help it, I have to touch it. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm a bad girl. I touched the statues. But I'm not alone in that, right? Like that's what little kids do, and I think some grown men probably. Grown men still do it because you can't help it. It's a statue. It looks beautiful, and somebody carved it. That's amazing.
And it's something about that do not touch rope around it that makes you want to reach past it.
Yeah, and I like the style. I love the stylized artwork in the game because I think it's so perfect for that. The period of what they're doing, I really love it. I know the controversy is about the sorceress's boobs and everything, but I really could care less about her boobs. But I'm also brought up in Canada and I've been to a lot of countries where nudity is not an issue. So it really doesn't bother me that if a character's drawn sexy.
Well, and that's what we were kind of talking about, is that she's drawn sexy, but that's all there is. It's not like
right. In the content, there's absolutely no sexual anything in the content. There's no degradation. She doesn't use her sexuality for anything. She just happens to be a sexy witch, which if you go back to the 80s, like all the sorceresses and witches in movies then, they were super sexy, and they kind of used it to their advantage to distract whoever they were fighting so that they could, whip their butt with magic. And then I was thinking of the other day of like an Elvira, like
Right.
the woman, the most famous witch whose boobs were out, and hers were,
They're still out.
Still out. She's still.
And I don't remember there being a big brouhaha over her. We thought she was kitsch. We thought she was fantastic and cool, and went with the horror genre at that time. And it's very funny that people all of a sudden make a big deal out of one character's breasts that happen to be larger than 90% of the anime breasts out there. And let's be real, the anime breasts out there are ginormous.
Yeah.
I have characters that wear just strips of material in anime that nobody's ever made a brouhaha over. But apparently the sorceress, because I think it's the jiggling. I think it's because they figured out how to animate jiggling.
She jiggles?
Yeah, I think, well, all the female characters jiggle, but they're thick characters. I like a woman drawn thick.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think though the jiggle kind of adds to her appeal, and I before anybody takes this the wrong way, the sorceress specifically, when she does like her little dash, I think it's adorable where she holds her hat. Like everyone's like, that's so offensive, and I'm like, it's cute.
Really?
It is. I think it's cute.
I mean, what offends me is content. Most shows that offend me, it's because of their content, because they're taking content in a way that is degrading women or is trying to suppress women. Or I mean, shoot, if I'm going to be really honest, and this is only for me, obviously, I may be the only human on the planet that feels this way. And I don't expect other people to feel the same way I do. I mean, what I get offended at isn't what I expect other people to get offended at. And I also don't expect what I'm offended at to change. It's about me going, oh, that's not my flavor. Therefore, I'm not going to participate in that, or it makes me feel yucky and gross. And the Family Guy makes me feel that way. I can't watch Family Guy. Every time I've watched an episode, and I've forced myself several times. In fact, almost anything that creator makes, I've tried to watch because it's so popular, and it always gives me that I feel gross and disgusting, and I can't partake. And I feel like I'm the only human in the world that feels that way, but it's okay.
Well, but that's interesting because people get so mad about how big her boobs are, and they think that's degrading to women. And then Family Guy, Peter treats Lois like crap. She is, all the kids treat her like crap. Like, she is not respected. She is not treated well. Like, if you want to talk about being rude to women, like that's a perfect example. Or Grand Theft Auto, nobody got mad that in Grand Theft Auto you can rape a hooker and then take her money.
Well, that
wasn't a big deal.
No,
like news
caused a huge debacle. But what they did focus on in Grand Theft Auto were how the prostitutes were dressed. Like, they freaked out about that, but they didn't freak out about the way that you could treat them in the game. And that's,
I remember
the big divide.
I remember there was a bigger deal about like the fact that you could have sex in Mass Effect through romance options.
Right. It's very interesting. I find it fascinating that people are more offended at what they see than what they experience. Like, content isn't as offensive as it used to be, and the people get away with a lot more in content. Like, I found it I'm in 2 games that came out on the same day, from Dragon's Crown and Tales of Xillia. And in Tales of Xillia, I play a character named Tipo, who has a lot of sexual innuendo in his dialogue. Like, if you're gonna tell me something is sexualized, his dialogue is way more sexualized. In fact, a lot in that game is much more so than a pair of large breasts, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, and that's where I'm coming from. But I've been through so much in my own personal life, facing real sexist, chauvinist men, facing real sexism in my daily life, that there are some things that I've come to terms with that aren't going to change, that I no longer get upset at, but I do avoid. I'm like, okay, if this guy is behaving this way and talking that way, I don't have to interact with him. I don't have to have him in my universe. I don't approve of his behavior. I can't change him as much as I'd like to. I can't. So instead of getting mad about it, I just choose to build my reality in a particular way. Jiggling boobs are not a part of a deletion in my reality. I'm a big fan of jiggling boobs. Because my mom has them, my aunt has them, my
everybody
grandma
has them. That's what happens when you have boobs that are big enough to jiggle.
Yeah, and in LA, when we're living in a city where everybody is, dieting themselves to incredible emaciated proportions, you don't see jiggly boobs unless, you see big boobs when they've been, they're faker. They don't jiggle as much, and
they've been augmented.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I have no problems with that. Go ahead and augment, but don't judge because a girl has boobs. Come on now. You don't know what she went through. You don't know if she had breast cancer. You don't know why women choose to look the way they choose to look, but it's just a look.
It's funny, I kind of had almost a reverse problem of the boobs as I did motion capture for a video game, and they had brought me in to be a pole dancer. So they had me in the mocap suit, and I'm doing pole moves and twirling around or whatever. And then
because it's okay to have tons of stripper characters in video games, but God forbid there's a sorceress.
This is what was funny, is that then they call me back and they're like, we need you to recapture and be a little less sexy. And let me tell you, that's not something I get very often. I don't get America be less sexy. It's usually like, America, could you amp it up a little? So I was like, yeah, sure, I can come back and be less sexy. So then I came back and I was just dancing normal, like, nope, it's going to be too sexy. We're not going to get our rating.
Wait. Too sexy, and she's a stripper.
They were worried about the rating. That's what I'm saying with the reverse. So finally, I literally ended up doing the lawnmower and the sprinkler dances, and they're like, okay, that might work. That might not be too sexy. And then they're like, oh, did you want to see the design of the character? And I was like, yeah, sure. And she is wearing string. She is like huge boobs. She's very curvaceous. She's very sexy, but she's literally wearing like the shortest like strap.
But God forbid that the motion capture artist.
Yeah, and I was like, well, you know what? I could be picking my nose and be too sexy in that outfit. So like they do have to meet. Like if you're worried about being too sexy, then it's not always just about the content, and it's not always just about the way it looks. Like somewhere in the middle.
Oh
yeah. And it's fascinating too. Another thing that's interesting.
And I'm proud to say, like, those moves all ended up in the game. Like you can actually see me doing the lawnmower and the sprinkler in the game.
That is, what game was
it? It was one of the Guitar Hero bands.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's interesting. We're coming into such a new place with like so much of our culture is in video games and in media is coming from Japan, and they have their own, interpretation of sexuality and all of that. And they're famous and always have been famous for what is referred to as fan service, which is kind of like the characters flirting and being a little sexual with the player or the audience member just for them. There's no actual plot purpose to it other than to titillate the audience member.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
it's called fan service. And I was, my very first anime series I did was Saber Marionette J, and I didn't know what fan service was, and I went in as a 20-something-year-old playing this character who literally was wearing, I swear to God, a fishbowl as panties. A fishbowl just hanging somehow magically in front of her cha was a fishbowl. And she would go about to this boy character and be like, oh, master, I'd like to draw you a bath. What can I do for you, master? And I was like, this is the most sexist, ridiculous content. And the character, what she was wearing, like, I was freaking out at the time. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I didn't know what fan service was. I didn't understand it. I was incredibly offended and almost walked off the job, but I needed the money, so I stayed and I did the job. And I had to get over it. Like, the director literally had to talk me down from a feminist meltdown in my brain. But I was young, and I was feeling at that time, because I had a younger body, and when I would walk out in public and with my young body, just dressed the way I like to be dressed, I would get sexually assaulted by strangers, just either verbally and sometimes physically, people just taking liberties, and that wasn't cool. So to me at that time, I interpreted it as, well, this is why they're doing it. They see this cartoon and that's why they're doing it. Well, time has passed since then, and I realized that it's not media that causes men or anyone to sexually assault anyone. It's that person and their sense of boundaries and their sense of morals and what's right and wrong. And that's taught usually at home by parents. That's taught through school. That's taught through other people in society. But I'm realizing more and more that art is the reflection of life. When I'm doing these anime and games where all of a sudden in the middle of nowhere the characters have to do a beauty pageant when it's not even in that place, time, or period. They're going to do a beauty pageant and they're going to wear skimpy clothes and my characters are really awkward having to do a beauty. I don't want to be a, but they do it because so the fans can see them in a little bikini. Like that to me is crazy but perfectly acceptable. Like that's just part of the content. It's part of the fan service. And it's such a strange new world with that being a part of content. So we're moving towards AI, that artificial intelligence, in order because people are lonely and they don't have long-term relationships, and they're using, video games to satisfy that part of themselves that is lonely. And I don't really think that's a bad thing. I kind of feel like that's interesting, and I'm going to have to open my own state of consciousness to understand it better and to, maybe let it be. It's a strange world. I'm not a fan of any sort of game or anything that, violence towards women or
because I do feel like I don't want to blame anything on the media, but I do think that we are influenced a little bit by what we watch. I mean, I know that I've been catching up on Breaking Bad for the premiere, and I didn't go out and start selling meth. However, it did affect my state of being. Like I definitely got a little bit more crabby and nasty, and I felt like I was snapping at people a little bit more. And if I go and see an action film, I'm so hyped up. I'm like throwing punches in the air, So especially after Pacific Rim. So I do think we are affected by what we see. And
well, there have been. I don't mean to interrupt, but there have been studies that say that high doesn't actually affect like your mental state. The high that you're in will only last for about 30 minutes to an hour. It's not going to make you, I don't know, go make your own giant robot and shoot up Japan. But as an anime fan, I feel like I've been exposed to a lot of this fan service and whatnot, my entire life. So I'm a lot more accepting of it because I understand that that's fantasy. For example, in anime, I think children are adorable. I'm not a pedophile, but I think little anime children are adorable. And that's just cute in a fictional sense. That is a fantasy. I'm not.
It is. And so therefore, it's funny that most of the people doing the attacking on, say, the sorceress or boobs and that design, a lot of people are coming from the anime world, which shocks me, which I'm like, are you kidding me? Is it because it's not the anime style that you're revolting against it? Because that's crazy. Obviously, it's fantasy. We are dealing with medieval times. That's always been the place of fantasy in our world. Tolkien, come on, that's crazy.
Well, and we've always, whenever you're doing something where you can draw the person, you're going to draw what you think is the ideal version of that person, and it's something you might not necessarily see in real life. So I don't see anything wrong with the way people are drawn. It's and I like Jessica Rabbit. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Right. When and then basically Parasol from Skullgirls and the Sorceress are Jessica Rabbit. They look exactly like Jessica Rabbit, which is fascinating. And also what I like I think it's Dragon's Dogma. You can hear that? Dragon's Dogma, A Dark Arisen. I'm in that game as Ulra, and someone just told me, I didn't know this, that the breasts are adjustable in that game. You can pick your own breast size, which is fantastic. And then another person not came up to me, but tweeted me online, and I thought this was a really important thing to put out there. Why is it that only women with large breasts are made sexy and women with small breasts those are the tomboy characters, and they are that's not always the case, but in the audience's point of view, they don't get upset at a woman with small breasts dressing sexy and having the skimpy outfits, only the one with the really large breasts.
That kind of blows my mind, actually.
Me too.
Yeah,
but she said that the other day, and I was blown away by it.
Well, just because right now I'm playing a game with most of the staff called Terra, and I wanted to bring this up because as a female, I like fan service too. I've been playing Metal Gear Solid most of my life, and half of it was staring at Snake's butt.
Yes!
Haters gonna hate. But with Terra, one of the things I like about it is that there are lolly characters, which are like, young childlike looking characters with like animal ears. There are literally furry characters, like you can be like a cat rabbit thing. There are high elves, which the male versions, they don't look like they're on steroids. Essentially, they're kind of like the anime equivalent of pretty boys, which is something that I think a lot of girls really like to see. And then there's the big buff dudes, if you want to be a big buff dude. And I can't get angry at any skimpy armor or anything in this game because everyone gets fan service.
Right.
And
Everyone's included.
like I'm playing as the knight in Dragon's Crown. I love being the knight. He's big, burly, to me that's sexy. And the design of the wizard is totally made for women with the
Mhm.
long flowing hair and that capey thing. Like what women get titillated by is different than what men get titillated by. But the creators know that, the artists know that, they're working to satisfy and please everybody in one way or the other, and you can't please everyone, obviously. I mean,
But they're trying, and I think what's interesting is that I think girls have been playing video games for a while, but I don't think that they've been very vocal about it. I don't think that they've been as vocal about it. And because of that, and this is me being maybe overly optimistic and giving everyone the benefit of the doubt. Because of that, I think of a lot of the original games were made for men, and so the women were more attractive for the men to look at, blah blah blah. But I think as women are more about playing, and developers know that women are playing, I think they're giving somebody a little something for everybody. And it's not about how it looks. I don't think that's ever a detrimental thing. I think as long as it's not about the way that they're treated, because I really do think that that does affect us if
yeah,
we're seeing it over and over again. But why not have fan service as long as everyone's getting fan service? As
right.
long
Yeah,
as it's not a game where it's just
And you don't want,
one.
like, I'm not a fan of degrading men either.
No, of
Like
course not.
it can't go the opposite way, where I don't want to see stuff come out where all of a sudden we've tipped the scale and it's like, oh well, just to make it even, we'll degrade the men. Well, that's ridiculous. And that's been happening more and more. Like, let's be real. When I was a kid, only women had to spend that many hours in front of a mirror. Only women got waxed. Only women had to do all of those crazy things that now men have to do, that manscaping. I mean, we've gone way crazy in real life as to what beauty standards are.
Right.
So let's look at real life and those beauty standards before we start judging fantasy beauty standards and fantasy levels of those things. And you were talking on the other day about in Saints Row.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
I was trying to find the video for this interview, but I can't find it. I saw this really great video and it was explaining why Saints Row 3 is actually one of the most feminist video games out there, which you would kind of be surprised at, I think, at first thought, unless you've played it. But you can make your character anything you want. You can make it a man, you can a woman, you can make it a fat woman with short hair, you could make it a
a
skinny.
clown.
You can make it a clown. You can make a scrawny little man. You can make it black, white, purple. Like, you can make your character anything you want, and your interactions are exactly the same across the board. The way you interact with the different characters throughout the game are exactly the same, whether male or female. And in this new version of Saints Row 4, you actually have your romance options like you do in Mass Effect, and
Yes.
they're hilarious. They're hilarious, but they're equal opportunity romance options. And so it's like a game like that. I mean, in a way, South Park is great because it offends everyone equally.
yes,
And it's kind of the same thing with Saints
yes.
Row 3. Like, it gives everyone an opportunity to be as obnoxious as possible.
And I
Whatever
can
way you
watch
want.
South Park. That's a
Yeah.
strange thing. It doesn't offend me. I get the irony, and I feel like it's making a social commentary in
And
most
that's
cases.
why I think.
And that's
I'm
the
biased with South Park because just due to the fact that I've been watching that since I was way too young.
No, it's really clever. The writing is really clever.
Yeah, it
It's
really
not
is.
going for the cheap shot. It's not making a joke at somebody else's expense. It's always got a smart commentary behind it, or irony behind
Like,
it.
Book of Mormon was wonderful.
Brilliant.
It was so
Brilliant.
good.
Those guys are really clever, and I appreciate them because I never feel as a female offended watching their stuff.
Well,
Never.
I feel sometimes there are episodes that gross me out, and I've been watching it since I was a
Yeah.
kid.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
don't arrest my mom. She's a good mom. Uh, but I think now in terms of gaming, it's a really good time to be a female gamer, and I've been telling this to a lot of my fellow, gaming friends. We're finally getting Otome games, which are girl games. The girls
Yes.
specifically aimed, or games specifically aimed to girls that are like dating simulations. Like Axis is releasing a ton of those lately, which thank you, release more. I've bought every single one so far.
Nice.
Just because you get something for you, like I think that having the option in games to like romance people or be female means that it's a good time to be a girl gamer. And I feel like a lot of
And it's also
people.
opening up to multi-sexualities
Yeah.
too.
Mhm,
I
yeah.
love that. I love that it's not being limited to just boy-girl interaction anymore. It's very every character that's coming out in video games right now, it's been a lot of thought about how diverse humanity is. And maybe obviously some characters offend, but they're at least representing, you know what I mean? They're representing our diversity as human beings.
I feel like a big problem though we're seeing though with I'm not even sure if I should say female gamers, but like people who are getting upset is they want very strong tomboyish characters, but that doesn't make a strong female character.
Not at
An
all.
Not at all.
example, an example I use a lot, and I'm not sure if either of you have played the game, is Final Fantasy X. The main female character is named Yuna, and she's feminine. She like wears like sort of a kimono-ish design. She's very polite, she's gentle, but she has a strong will and determination. She's almost like an idealized character for me because she has inner strength and she has power, but she doesn't have to be like, "I'm gonna kick your butt," like
Right, right.
that's nothing that she would ever say.
Again, that's showing the diversity, right? There's so
Mhm.
much that's awesome. There's so much diversity in just women, period. Like some of us are really effeminate, some of us are not, some of us are tomboyish but look girly, some of us look butch but are girly. It's one of those things where there's so many opportunities and possibilities. Like even in the games that I'm in that haven't released yet, I mean, they're not going to get drawn any more like these people want. The characters I have coming out are buxom and gorgeous and dressed very in nothing, next to nothing, but they're strong and they don't care. They're not dressed that way for sexual appeal to men in their minds. And I love that they're justifying, like in the actual characters' brains, like they chose that outfit.
Right.
And it wasn't to satisfy a man, even though it's getting that reactions. And that how many times as a girl walking down the street, you get dressed up, you feel good about yourself, you feel sexy, you feel cute, you put something on, and you're doing it for yourself, not for anybody else. And then you go out and then some creep, it could be a guy, it could be a girl, but somebody has to do something disgusting to make you feel dirty about it. Well, it's not you that's dirty. It's the person who has a reaction. And everyone has their own fetishes. People can find the weirdest things sexy. You don't know. You can't, just because media literally tries to train us as to this is sexy, this is not. It doesn't actually work that way.
And you're absolutely right in the fact that there are different ways of showing strength. There's the people who will be like, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you, and then there's somebody else who's like, no, you're not gonna do that, and this is why you're not gonna do that. It's gonna be a bad idea for everyone. Like there's different ways of controlling a situation. There's different ways of threatening people. There's different ways of convincing someone. You don't have to twist their arm physically. You can have a conversation with them. And honestly, I think that like if you're going to go into somewhat of a stereotypical thing, I think women talk out their issues. Like women will be like, this is why this is a bad idea. Let's have this conversation. Whereas man would be like, nope, bad idea. I'll blow your head off if you do it.
Oh, bye.
And I know that's very stereotypical, but that has been my experience in life, that men handle things through fighting and women don't. And granted, I'm a stunt woman, so I'm a little bit of a different situation. But because I have handled some things through fighting. However, I think that it's interesting to show a strong female character not being a tomboy, but being somebody who's dressed to the nines and has gorgeous blonde hair and big hoop earrings, but is strong and dynamic and knows how to handle a situation and how to deal with people. So I think you hit the nail on the head, Jackie, when you said that like there are different ways of being strong, and the fact that everyone seems to think that there's one way shows that they're actually being much more sexist, because that means that they think the only way to be strong is the male way of being strong.
I agree. I think it's really interesting when I bring up this point because people are like, you would pick that character, really? And I'm like, well, I love that she celebrates her femininity because,
Yeah.
as a girl, you kind of want someone who, to look up to that has like maybe a style that's similar to you or like they don't
Well,
douse
I'm
their
the
face in
opposite
makeup.
because I'm a little bit of a tomboy myself, and I dress up like my natural state. If I weren't living in Los Angeles, I would probably would probably look like a boy most of the time because I'm very comfortable like that. But in LA, I dress up. I wear heels. I dress up. I go to work. I put it on, and I like it. I like dressing up. I like being it. For me, it's like I feel like I'm in drag, and I really enjoy that. So I like characters that show me more of that. Like I am a big fan of drag queens. You know, if there was more drag queen characters, I would be so happy.
I love your
Oh
bio
my
about how if you
God.
were a man, you'd be a drag queen.
I would
That's
I would
hilarious.
totally be a drag queen. I just that's the only demographic I think we're missing in the female rainbow is the drag queen show in games, because I would really like to see
There's
that
an amazing
represented.
character in Orange is the New Black. That is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I
Well,
can
she's
Transgender. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's transgender.
I can relate to that too because you know, at home it's always like t-shirts and shorts and t-shirts and shorts and my hair is like pinned back. And then, you know, I'm going to a convention or I'm going out to something like professional and I'm always trying to make sure that I look, you know, nice. It's just a public view of things. Like it might not be how I'm most comfortable, but I also feel really happy that I get to dress
And
up.
it's fun. It's fun to stretch ourselves and go into different universes. You know, if I was a really, really girly girl, I'd probably really enjoy the tomboy characters. And maybe that's why people are crying for the tomboy characters, because they want to live that out a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with it. But I do believe that the tomboy characters are being repped in games and anime. I play a lot. I mean, Chie was like the biggest badass, you know, tough chick there. I loved playing Chie. She was very easily the closest character to me ever.
Well, like if
and I'm not physically voluptuous, so I will absolutely pick a character with huge boobs and a big butt and a tactile waist. Like I would love the jiggle. Like that's awesome.
And funny, my boyfriend plays as the sorceress and I play as the knight.
Yeah, that's common though. Actually, somebody was just telling me that like most of the time men play as women because they'd rather look at the female character the entire time.
Right.
And women play as men for that reason.
Isn't that funny?
Well, it's funny referring to Persona. I just want to say this, like, no disrespect to your character, but I would pick Amanda's character.
From disrespect taken. I'm
sorry from a personal preference, just because
I love her.
She has like very womanly, like what I equate to very womanly traits.
She's beautiful. I just inside and out. That character is she and no wonder, in my opinion, she is in love with her. My opinion.
Fair enough. Fan fiction artists go.
Yeah. Go. Oh, I'm sorry. Rule 34 is represented on the internet very clearly.
But like it's kind of like when I tell people, especially when they're like, why don't you, you know, play this or watch this? And I'm like, well, the guys aren't the type of guys I like in fiction. Right. For example, anime has kind of spoiled me, so I really like shy glasses wearing guys. I don't know where that came from. I don't
like Jackson from Monster High.
I totally do. I don't like pushing, you know, like guys who push people over are who are pushovers in real life though, like who I have to baby. Like it's completely opposite, but there's like a fantasy there that exists and it doesn't reflect my real life.
Oh, that's well said, Jackie. That's well said, because what's the point of playing games and doing this type of media if it isn't to explore fantasies in certain ways? And let's be real, the internet explores fantasies on all sorts of ridiculous levels where everybody's crazy freakish fetishes and fantasies are represented, and we don't all agree on that, on what it should be. And I mean, I'm on Tumblr, I see stuff all the time I wish I could delete from my eyeballs. You know, I'm like, really?
Oh God, don't follow me on Tumblr. You'll find so much.
I mean, look at the guy on guy. Like, all of my characters are Rule 34'd out the wazoo. It's just,
what does that mean?
Rule 34 means that if it exists at all, there's a porn version of it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So so I'm always, but I've had to just. At first, it was too much for me. I mean, shoot, I've seen some beautiful nude artwork of Chie that I thought, I mean, the artists are talented and it's amazing. And then it goes from beautiful nudes to, okay, hello, Rule 34, you know, but the artwork is still stunning. So I can't really be mad at it, but wow, you know, but people are just doing what it is that they feel they need to express. What can I say? So to be mad at anybody's creations, it's kind of like, well, who makes us the judge and jury of the universe?
Well, it's kind of like how I've jumped on the Tumblr train for a show called Free, which is airing on Crunchyroll. It is a fan service show for girls. It is all about guys swimming. They dramatically strip off their shirts. They, you know, are teaching each other how to swim. you know, there's nothing technically, you know, wrong about it. I've got plenty of male staff members watching it with me, and they're like, if you're worried about Free turning you into, you know, a fangirl, I guess, as a male, you should be more concerned that guys taking off their shirts are making you worry because they're just swimming. But guys in Speedos, I mean, come on, that's made for me.
And a lot of gay men out there.
That's true. But you know, there's media for girls as well, and I think we're seeing more of that. And I feel like attacking media that is also for men or that is made for men seems unfair.
In Dragon's Crown, it's not like every single character isn't extremely exaggerated. And if you ever watched the original Conan the Barbarian, you have Grace Jones, an African-looking woman, naked with a tail, like she's sexy as get out in that movie. And then you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, which at that time nobody looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nobody on the planet. He was the first one to look that, you know, animated. He was real. It was so extreme. And then all the witch character was all sexy, and you know, all of that was represented, and it was very even across the board. And this game doesn't do anything different than those movies from that period of time. And there were a lot of them, not just Conan. There was like Sonya the Red, and it was a big thing back in the 80s, and I was a kid of the 80s. So this game was never going to offend me because I get it. I get where the influence and the inspiration came from. I totally get it. But
well, I think that shows because when I got my copy, I got it with the art book, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, I got this cool art book with the game. You want to see it?" And she's 60, and she has no idea even how to check her email. So, I'm like, "There's been some controversy about it," and she like was going through, and she landed on the Sorcerer's page and the Amazoness page, and she was like, "Whoa, those are big." And I'm like, "Yes, they are." And she's going through and she's like, "Well, they're all like that. They're all exaggerated." And I'm like, "Yes, exactly." She's like, "So what's the controversy?" You just debunked it.
Well, and I honestly feel like we'll get to a solution a lot faster if we're telling them what we like rather than just tearing apart what they've created that we don't like.
That's a good point.
You know, because if you're just if you were to say, I like strong, independent women who are comfortable with their sexuality and femininity and handle things and blah, 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 then they can create something a lot easier than if they're like, well, do you like this? No. Do you like this? No. What about this? No. I don't like that. No. Like, how are they going to figure out exactly what to give us if we're just saying no and we're not saying this is what we're looking for?
And games have changed so much. Like in the last 2 years, the characters I've been getting to record have been so much more amazing and complex than the characters I did years before. So that says that putting what you do like out there so that the game companies and the animation companies can read it are making a change. It might be painfully slow for you. Yes, I understand that. But keep talking about what you like. Keep it positive. Keep everything in the positive realm. If you don't like it, then don't buy it. You can always vote with your money.
Yeah.
But I don't watch Family Guy because it's just not for me. But I don't think it shouldn't exist.
And they've added women to Call of Duty, which was like something they hadn't done for years.
That's
and
a big deal.
They added women to Call of Duty because women are playing Call of Duty.
And the negativity can backfire on you. I was getting so upset over the controversy with Dragon's Crown. I wasn't sure if I was going to have the money to get it on release day, so I hadn't pre-ordered it. But eventually, the comment section of either Kotaku or something else threw me off the edge, and I was like, I'm gonna just put it on my credit card and just buy it because I wanted to
purchase.
Well, I wanted to support something that I didn't see a problem with. I didn't even have it in my hands. I was able to play it at Evo, and I saw nothing offensive there. But like these people are judging it without even playing it.
Again, it's that content thing. I mean, I can't judge anything. It's judging a book by its cover. You really can't. That saying has been around forever. You don't judge a book, but don't judge a game by its design. Check the content. Because there are some games that look really, really pretty and sweet, but are the dirtiest, nastiest games you'll ever play in your entire life. And if a mom just went and bought that game based off the pretty pictures, they would be very disappointed when they started playing the game with their child.
And there's a lot of games and movies and content out there that it has much more subversive messages that you wouldn't even know. That have all these different messages that you're not even realizing. So I mean, watch it, play it, and know what it is before you criticize it. But this is one of my favorite rants, which I won't get into right now because I know we're running out of time, is not everyone is entitled to an opinion, actually. Everyone thinks they're entitled to an opinion, but not everyone actually is entitled to an opinion. I think once you've done the research, once you actually know what you're talking about, then you're entitled to it. But most people don't. They just go half-cocked with their opinions without even realizing that what they're saying is so stupid and based in nothing. And all it does is pollute the world with a lot of noise.
Well, and the thing, it could be one person who did all the research and came out with their opinion, and it was built very solid, and it made sense to them, and it makes sense. And then it's the people that ride other people's opinions, not knowing that information.
Well, one of my favorite examples of that is how every single week somebody posts, "Hey guys, it's the 10-year anniversary from Back to the Future. Marty McFly came into the future on this day." I'm like, no, it's not. But everyone does it. Everyone just reposts it because they're like, that sounds cool, but I want to repost that. And nobody actually knows the actual dates, and no one actually does the work and the research. They just post it because they think it sounds cool.
And I
think that happens all the time.
Oh, I think it happens more and more because we're so busy and we're on the go that we're reading our media on our phones, our iPads, and all of that stuff, where we're having a gut reaction to something we actually didn't take the time to finish reading.
Yeah.
We don't really pay attention to maybe the tone behind something. I do it myself. I'm totally guilty of it. But I've noticed like some people would because I posted a blog on it. And some people were posting comments, and it was obvious they hadn't actually read the blog. Like that was made me laugh. I'm like, oh,
they read the first 3 lines.
They read some, and someone told them to go to the site, and they just went with their opinion and put their comment on, but they didn't actually read the content.
Yeah.
And we're getting away from content too much. We're getting too much into sound bites and gut reactions and what do I see that offends me.
What's the title of the blog? I made my opinion.
Well, this entire conversation is a good example of that because both Erin and I have used examples of Dragon's Crown. I'm not sure, America, if you've played it or not, but you know, it's been
over to my house and play. Don't worry.
That's why I haven't had any opinions specifically.
Right. It's been prevalent through the conversation because both of us have been able to engage in the game.
Right. Which most people haven't, who have very strong opinions about it. You know, I mean, Erin and I seem to see eye to eye on a lot of things. So if she's telling me the content is not offensive, I'm inclined to believe her. But that's why I haven't said anything specifically about the game, because I haven't played it, and I'm not going to state an opinion on that simply because I haven't. But you guys have. You're stating opinions on your actual experience with the game. That opinion to me should be louder than somebody who looked at the box art and went, nope.
Right. Like I can't even talk about the groping stuff because I haven't found the groping stuff. So until I find the groping stuff, I have no opinion on the groping. It sounds a little creepy and gross, but I will explore it. You know what I mean? But that's not my opinion until I've done it.
Both the males and the females do make sexual moans. So...
Well,
good to know. I don't remember recording that.
It doesn't seem like it happens to the title characters. It seems like
no. But we did. It was all of us who did the voices for the whole game. Like there's only like 6 of us or 8 of us involved. So we did all the voices. Like you hear me throughout, you hear Cindy throughout. We're all over the place.
Well, I know it happens to Conan the Barbarian.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I don't remember making those noises, so it must not have been me. I bet it was somebody else.
Maybe somebody else.
Yeah, that's all right.
And before this, we get into off the sexual topic. Our Dragon's Crown. I just want to curse Yuri Lowenthal for always changing my cardboard boxes or wooden boxes into wooden creatures anytime I go into a dungeon. Thanks a lot, Yuri.
Yuri's always yelling. He's always yelling at me in that game. I'm always like, filthy Luca! Oh, Yuri. I feel like he's chasing me from video game to video game.
Yeah, because he's kind of in all of them.
But he's always like opposite my character.
Oh, he is?
So he's always, I'm like, wow, really? It's funny. It's one of those beautiful synchronicities of the universe. I actually really love it because Yuri's like my brother and I absolutely adore it. And I adore him and his performances. But it's a really funny one of those things in life that's a coincidence that can't possibly be a coincidence.
Right.
As a fan that pays too much attention to voice actors, I really need to record myself watching a show or playing a game because I curse you guys a lot. It's just unintentionally.
Hilarious.
I'm just like, gosh dang it. Why you gotta get my way?
I yell at the actor, not at the character.
That's so funny.
I'll yell at Patrick if my sword isn't working properly or if he drops it. I'll yell at Patrick, even though I'm the one who's using the rope.
I don't want to count how many times I cursed Yuri Lowenthal in Prince of Persia. I don't. Oh, you fell again! Why? listeners out there who want to keep up to date, on your blogs and opinion pieces, or even just stalk you to find out what other games you're doing, where can they follow you?
My website, erinfitzvo.com or Erin Fitz Badass. Either URL will get you there. And on Twitter, it's at Erin Fitzgerald.
I'm on Twitter at America_young. I write monthly for a website called Miss in the Biz, which is just all about a bunch of female contributors who all talk about working in this industry and various aspects of it, from acting to directing to stunts to producing. There's a lot of really cool articles on there.
Really good articles if you're really interested in the female perspective of being in a man's world.
And I actually just wrote one about strong female characters, which you might like, Jackie.
Yes.
I kind of went off on my own rant about This Is the End, which I loved, but that's a whole nother story. And my website is just americayoung.com.
And now for any of the listeners who want to pick up your latest and greatest work, are there anything that you can talk? Are there anything? Is there anything you can talk about?
Well, Saints Row comes out on the 20th. Saints Row 4 comes out on the 20th, and I did a bunch of motion capture for that. And I just love those group of creators and guys and everyone involved in that project. So I'm really proud to be part of that.
And don't forget, America is the lead character in 13 Wishes, Monster High's next special, which comes out, I think, around in the fall.
Oh, it does?
October.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. We don't know for sure. That's not but the next special that comes out on DVD, 13 Wishes, that's America starring in that. She really kills it.
Is that another CG one, just out of curiosity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually the specials are the ones that they air
Yes.
on Nickelodeon are, so I always like to check them.
Yes.
And it's and the story just turned out so great. Like
really
they find a way of kind of taking typical stories and making them really atypical. Like they really find a way of putting their own spin on it. So I'm really happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, that's good.
And then,
everything that Tales of Zillia just came out, Dragon's Crown just came out. I'm still on Wild Grinders on Nicktoons. We're in the middle of recording second season on that. I'm very excited about that. It's getting funnier and funnier. And
Ever After
Hive. I think I've said everything I'm allowed to say. The rest of the stuff that's incredibly juicy, I'm not allowed to say yet.
I know that's always the most frustrating part,
yeah.
isn't it?
Woo, but I got plenty of juicy to focus on.
Yeah.
Always fun time. So now, is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with? Words of wisdom, dating advice, weather forecasts, or anything that we might have skipped over?
No, just pendulous breasts are amazing.
Yeah, and do research before you have an opinion. That's all that we ask. And if you guys disagree with anything we might have said, feel free to tweet at us. We're really active on our Twitter. And we'd love to continue this conversation if you guys have any thoughts.
Yeah, and I have no ill will towards people who don't like it and find offense with it. That I have, of course, I just like me and my opinion on Family Guy, but I don't force your opinion on other people. I'm not trying to force anybody to like Dragon's Crown. I happen to adore it, and I might, because it's a positive. And focus on the positive.
Yeah.
Focus on the positive. Focus on what you do love, not on what you don't love.
The only way to make the world better is if you say no and then say, but what if we did this? No, I don't like that, but what if we did this? Like, you're allowed to not like something. It's totally okay, like Erin just said, but then why don't you follow that up with, no, I don't like the pendulous breasts, but I'd really like it if maybe they were a little bit more this size, or maybe they concentrated on the huge eyes, more in an anime style or something like that. Like, why not follow up the negative with something constructive? And that's the main thing that I have a problem with. The negative is it's awful, it's vile, it's stupid.
You're stupid.
The internet's kind of forgotten how to do constructive criticism.
Oh, of course. Like, the internet specializes in trolling.
I'm not gonna mention any names, but I've had people who have been on the website, and they're not with us anymore, but people who have gone to the website, I've sent them to an event or sent them to something and gotten an article back that was literally insulting in how negative it was. And I was like, wow. You can't do that. We can't put this up. This is offensive. Wow. And they're like, it's my opinion. You can say something negative and be nice about it.
Yeah, of course you can.
Wow, it's amazing.
But I think a lot of people feel like the way to feel like an expert is to be negative. It's like
to be cruelly negative.
Yeah,
like you can be negative without being cruel and malicious and kind of sadist. Like there's so much garbage out there already. Why do you want to keep adding to the garbage pile?
So
How
keep
about
it
we plant some
positive.
flowers?
Attention and hits or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, this could divulge into like a video game journalist talk, but I think I should avoid that since we're running out of time.
Yeah, I guess we are. Well, then last minute talk, keep it positive, and that'll help your dating life too.
Yay! Yes.
Well, thank you, ladies, for joining me today. It was so awesome to talk to you guys about this.
You too, Jackie. What a great conversation. Thank you so much for thinking of this, guys.
And
thank you, Chris.
Thanks for letting
really
me
nice.
stow away.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
We love stowaways.
I love the tag team interview. This is so much more fun.
I do too.
But for anybody out there that missed any of this interview, don't fret. It'll be up on the website within the next few days, so keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.